Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this podcast, we're going to take it back to the 1996 NBA draft. There were some familiar names that got drafted that night. From Allen Iverson to Steve Nash to Kobe Bryant to Ray Allen and many, many more. Some people say that this is one of the greatest NBA draft classes ever. But what happens when you take a look back at their careers and how they were at the time, and if you did a redraft, or in this case, the remix? What I did was on this podcast, I've got the homies coming through. My man Easy Does It VA and my boy D Love Hall. And what we did was we sat down and we did our own draft. We redrafted this class, but we just did the lottery, which is the first 14 picks. So on this podcast, after the break, what you're going to hear is our version of our own 1996 NBA draft. After the break, we present to you the 96 NBA draft, remixed, on the 12 Kyle podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for listening. Thanks again for downloading and subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. As I mentioned in the intro, we are taking it back to 1996. Now, some of you who are listening, you might not have been around in 96. Some of you who are listening may have been around, but probably couldn't come outside. So for all of you who could come outside or remember this era, basketball heads, this is the podcast for you. Even if you're not a basketball fan, just sit back, listen, and enjoy the jokes. As I mentioned at the end, we're talking about the 96 NBA draft. And what we're actually doing is we're going to go back and we're going to look at the draft and just redo the draft, like who we thought should have gone where and where we would pick certain players based on their accomplishments to that point, and also based on their career in the NBA. So without further ado, let me introduce my guests. Well, really, they're not guests. First up, man, basketball extraordinaire. You heard him on the podcast. He had his own personal run-in with Allen Iverson. My man, Easy Does It VA. What up, baby?
What up, what up, what up? Shouts out to the 12 Kyle podcast in your podcast voice. Different.
See, we going there already. And my other co-host, man, no stranger to the show. You know him. He's got spoken word albums out there. My man D Love Hall is in the building. D, what up, baby?
What's going on, everybody? How y'all feeling tonight, brothers?
Man, good, man. It's been a minute. You guys know, for those of you who've been following the podcast, these are two of my childhood friends. We've talked NBA before. Nothing like this, though. This is going to be a little bit different. So what we're going to do, we're taking a look back at the 1996 draft. It was arguably one of the best draft classes, I think, to go down. Some have said that it's right up there with the 84 draft. You know, I think that probably remains to be seen, but the 84 draft class with Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and I think it was Barkley. Was Barkley in that draft? No, Barkley wasn't in that draft. Who else? Stockton, and I think Malone was in that draft. There's a couple of Hall of Famers in there. That draft, and then obviously the 2003 draft with LeBron, D. Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh,
Darko Milicic.
My
bad. Too soon.
I wasn't going to mention Darko. So nonetheless, man, we're talking about one of the better NBA draft classes, that we've seen in quite some time. So for those of you who don't remember, I'm going to run down just the draft picks from the first round, just to give you an idea. But what we're actually going to do, we're not redrafting the entire draft. We're just going through and picking our own lottery picks. So that means the top 14 picks that happened in that particular year. So without further ado, let me read them off to you. Drafted at number 1 by the Philadelphia 76ers, Allen Iverson. At 2 was Marcus Camby by the Toronto Raptors. The Vancouver Grizzlies took Sharif Abdul-Rahim at number 3. Stephon Marbury went to Milwaukee and was subsequently traded for the number 5 pick. Number 5 pick was Ray Allen. The number 6 pick, Antoine Walker by the Boston Celtics. At 7, the LA Clippers selected Lorenzen Wright. The 8th pick was by the New Jersey Nets. They took Kerry Kittles. Samaki Walker went 9 to Dallas. Eric Dampier was 10 at Indiana. The Golden State Warriors took Todd Fuller. At 12, Vitaly Popapenko. He went to Cleveland. At 13, Kobe Bean Bryant. At 14, Peja Stojakovic. 15, Phoenix Suns took Steve Nash. Peja Stojakovic went to the Sacramento Kings. The Charlotte Hornets took Tony Delk at 16. 17 was Jermaine O'Neal going to Portland. 18, the Knicks took John Wallace. At 19, the Knicks took Walter McCarty. And at 20, the Cleveland Cavaliers took Zildronas Ilgauskas. Coming in at number 21 at the New York Knicks was Dante Jones. 22, Roy Rogers went to the Vancouver Grizzlies. At 23, the Denver Nuggets took Efemi Rentazias. I think that's how you pronounce it. At 24, the LA Lakers took Derek Fisher. At 25, the Utah Jazz took Martin Murasep. 26, the Detroit Pistons took Jerome Williams. At 27, Brian Evans went to the Orlando Magic. At 28, the Atlanta Hawks drafted Priest Lauderdale. And at 29, Travis Knight went to the Chicago Bulls. And that concluded the first round. So, fellas, we're going to take it to the top. So, I guess before we even get started, and I'll start first with you, D, what do you remember? I know we talked a little bit before we started recording about, having to go back and kind of figure some things out or look at this actual list of the draftees. What do you remember prior to, I guess, looking at your list prior to, kind of going into a deep dive? What do you remember about this class?
A lot of questions, actually. There was this was right after KG came out, right? What year KG came out?
He came out the year before, 95.
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions about the high school talent at that time. And it was like, a lot of people was thinking, are they going to be one and dones? That was starting to be the hot thing. And the high school kids were starting to make their way in. And a lot of question marks. It was almost like, at the time, we didn't know how deep that was. But then you started thinking, like, they were willing to take chances on these kids because of longevity, as opposed to, for whatever reason, they were saying that the guys that went to college 3 and 4 years were worn out. That was a little weird to me, but, I wasn't a GM, and I wasn't really that in-depth at the time. So I just remember that at the time, there was a whole lot of question marks about the youth movement back then.
What about you, Zell?
To be quite honest, man, I would just have to say, like, being in the Virginia area, man, the AI hype was tremendous being here. So, a lot of sightings, I think D can recall, he might have been up here during that time when there were some sightings.
Yeah.
And, some sightings.
It was just a lot of hysteria about to be drafted, a lot of Applebee's shutting down the bar. I just remember a lot of that hype going into that draft, knowing that he was about to be, a top 2 or 3 pick. And but we saw that he became number 1. So that's kind of what I remember, just mostly about that hype around him being from this, being in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No doubt. I think for me, it was kind of like a little bit of, this was one of the first years that I can remember where there was like a really, really push for younger players. When you look at, most of the guys drafted, I don't see anybody, in the top 10 that was a 4-year senior. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it was that was one of the first years that I can remember. You know, there were guys before that, like you said, KG and some of these guys, you know, underclassmen that were leaving. But, you know, the standard used to be, you know, the Christian Leitners, those kind of kids who would go and stay for 4 years. I think at the time, I want to say Tim Duncan, I think, was just like a freshman or whatever at this particular time. But I know he was at Wake Forest, and I remember, you know, announcers saying, well, he's going to stay 4 years. He's the guy that's going to stay 4 years. And it was just like narratives were being painted, some of these kids, before we even really got a chance to see them shine as to whether or not they were going to stay 1 year or 2 years or 3 or 4 years. And I think that's the first year that I can remember it really kind of being a thing for the youth movement. So I thought that was one of the things that really, really stood out to me in 96. So, yeah, without further ado, I guess we should go ahead and get it started. So we're just going to go list each one and talk about, you know, who we picked and why we would pick them. So I guess I'll start it off since it's my podcast. For the first pick in the 1996 NBA draft, it's obvious. I'm taking Kobe Bean Bryant. Now, Kobe, as you all know at the time, Kobe was coming out of high school.
With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
A coming out party for the high school kid. Kobe Bryant, meeting with the approval of that Charlotte fan in attendance here. And Hubie, this is a guy whose stock has risen every time he's tried out. People like this kid.
Well, everyone writing when he first came out, well, he's going to have to bulk up. This guy is 200 pounds at 6'6". He is an offensive whiz. He's very, very talented. He has all pro moves. And when you look at him, you're talking about a young man with range. He can go off the dribble. He can get his shot. And in every place that he worked out, nothing but raves. No one talking about any shortness or a weakness in his game.
Kobe was actually drafted 13th by the Charlotte Hornets and then subsequently traded to the LA Lakers. He never played for the Hornets. But, I mean, I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's pretty much a safe pick to pick Kobe. Obviously, none of us, and the three of us who are on this podcast are huge basketball fans. None of us saw Kobe being this great and, turning out to be the player that he ended up being. His accolades are, astounding. So there's no need for me to read off his accolades. But, yeah, nobody knew this kid. I remember some hype around him, but there was no internet, so we didn't know how good he was. I had never seen him play before, and I think I might have seen him in a preseason game or something with the Lakers, and I thought he was athletic as hell. He had a nice jumper, but I didn't see everything that we saw, and much to his he worked at it. And people, really want to talk about Kobe. If you're a Kobe fan or you remember Kobe when he came to the Lakers, he wasn't Saw. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was somebody who really had to work. Now, he was great. I take that back. He was really, really good, but he had to work to be great. And, I mean, everybody remembers, him shooting the air balls in a playoff game against Utah. And but nobody saw that coming. Anybody tells you that, they saw Kobe as a rookie and said, oh, he's going to be one of the top 10 greatest players of all time is the damn liar. So yeah, number one, man, I'm taking Kobe, man. D Love Hall, your first pick. Who you taking?
See, I'm glad you went first. Because now you justify my second list.
Okay.
That's why I made two lists, because what you just said, it changes my whole dynamic. My first pick is also Kobe. And for the exact same reasons you just said.
Okay.
Nobody, and you know me, y'all both know me, lifelong Laker fan.
Mm-hmm.
I hated the pick. Did not want him on the Lakers. Did not understand what Jerry was doing. I did not get it. I didn't want no high school kid. I didn't want no parts of that. We had Eddie Jones. I was good with Nick the Dick Man next. I was good with all that. The lineup was going to shape up real good. I was good with all of that. Dude came in and put his work in. For everybody who wants to say he was a snitch, he was an ass, he was bumming his teammates, he put his work in. And that's all I cared about. You know, I didn't really get into the whole Kobe Shaq feud thing. I hated it, but I didn't really get too much into it because all I wanted was my team to win. Dude put work in. You can say anything about whatever he did off the court. On the court, that man put in the work. I respect the work. I love the work. And you're right. Nobody saw maybe Jerry.
You're right.
Jerry West might have been the only person at the time that saw that because nobody else would have saw that. Anybody else, in particular, I think it was the New Jersey who picked Kerry Kittles at the time. I think it was.
Yeah.
Had they known that, you don't take Kerry Kittles over Kobe.
Right.
You don't do that. I don't know. Kerry was nice at Villanova, but if you knew that, if you had any inkling of what Kobe was going to be, you take Kobe over Kerry Kittles.
And
so that's how little. Yeah. Or at least it'd be argued. It'd be argued.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, right now, according to how we're going to do this list, my first pick would have been Kobe too.
No doubt. Zell, what about you?
I mean, I think it's based on how Kobe ultimately, his career ultimately went. I think it's a no-brainer that you almost got to put him at number one. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, he won 5 championships. He was a dominant, arguably the 1 and 2 guards to ever play. I don't know how you could rationalize anyone else in this draft being number one. To be quite honest, because I don't think anybody else in the draft won a championship other than
Ray Allen got one. And
Ray Allen as a what?
And I think Antoine Walker won one with the Heat.
Yeah, but I'm talking about.
I feel you. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, them guys were parts of teams that where if they wasn't there, they still would have won championship. You follow what I'm saying? So
right.
So Kobe Bryant was probably the only person on this list that was a franchise piece to a championship team. I think it's a no-brainer. So yeah, I definitely would go with Kobe Bryant as number one.
No doubt. So now we move to pick 2. Zell, if you're picking 2, who is your second pick in the 96 draft?
So this is where I'm going to just mess up the whole thing.
Oh, Lord. Here
we go.
I thought it was going to be going number 2. Let's see what this is.
Let's get it.
And as much as I am a Bubba Chuck fan, Bubba Chuck's not going to be number 2 for me.
Uh-oh.
The only reason I'm not putting – it's a shame I can't even announce my pick. I got to tell you why I didn't pick Bubba Chuck.
Wow.
But so this is what I was trying to allude to earlier. Being a basketball nerd and a basketball junkie, I'm unable to just throw lists together without overthinking. So I overthought on my list a little bit. And if y'all recall, the Toronto Raptors, that was the Damon Stoudemire Toronto Raptors, if I'm not mistaken. And that team was quietly surging. And Damon Stoudemire might have been the pick the year before. So I'm not so sure if you pick Damon Stoudemire and then the next year you picking Bubba Chuck. So just from a GM perspective, I would say Bubba Chuck wouldn't have been the number 2 pick.
Right.
However, I think I would have been, not seeing what the list ultimately became as their careers panned out, I'm going with Jermaine O'Neal.
Wow.
At number 2.
Wow. Yeah, you did.
That's a pull.
Yeah, this just got fucked up.
I'm going Jermaine O'Neal, number 2.
Yeah, you potting. You potting right now. Damn. Okay. J.O.
And I'm justifying that a little bit. It's a little bit of a stretch. You do have a little bit of redundancy at the 5 and the 4, but we all know that J.O. lost about 3 years on his career playing behind Rasheed Wallace and all these other guys at Portland, Brian Grant, and et cetera. I think he could have went to that young team with that movement that they have. I thought that might have been a better fit than Allen Iverson. Even some of the two guards, like the Ray Allens and the Steve Nashes and all those things. I think that J.O. probably would have been a better fit in that Toronto Raptors team. So that's my second pick. Okay, off the grid we go.
Okay. Wow. Now this is the beauty of the draft, folks who are listening, because you can draft it any way that you want. Zell is basically drafting his based on who was on the team. So I'm not mad at that at all. There's no wrong answers. D Love Hall, what you got? Who you got coming in at number 2?
I'm gonna take his Bubba Chuck pick and put him at number 2. But listen, let me be clear. Zeke's reasoning almost swayed me just now. Like that made sense. Mm-hmm. I just didn't get that in depth into the GM side of what he just did. But his explanation makes a lot of sense. But just off the grip of just what they did in their careers and the draft that year, I put Chuck in there. And if push came to shove, if I could get some assets for Stoudemire, I might have tried to ship him and get some the ultimate thing that always happened to AI. You get him to a squad, you trade all your assets, you put a bunch of bums around him and hope for the best. I might have did the same thing in Toronto. I don't know, but at this juncture, without going into too much detail, Chuck would have been my second. I'm sorry, Allen Iverson for the listeners. Allen Iverson would have been my second pick.
Well, the listeners know, and if you don't know, Allen Iverson is referred to as Bubba Chuck. Yeah, man, I gotta second that, D. Bubba Chuck is like my second favorite basketball player ever, behind Michael Jordan. So I'm taking him too. I'm not. There's, like you said earlier, there's no way that anybody could justify, no matter how big a fan that you are of Iverson's, putting him at 1. He got drafted 1, coming out of Georgetown.
With the first pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Allen Iverson from Georgetown University.
But yeah, on this list right here, the 96 list, based on what he did in his career, Finals MVP, Hall of Famer, his accolades, I mean, they go on and on. I'm not going to read them off. But, yeah, I'm taking Allen Iverson at number 2, going to Toronto. Coming in at the 3rd pick was the Vancouver Grizzlies. Now, in the real life, in 1996, they took Sharif Abdul-Rahim. D, you got the 3rd pick. Who you taking?
Jesus Shuttlesworth. Ray Allen, and let me be clear. If AI didn't get that MVP, I'm not sure if I didn't swap those two in my order. That MVP kind of said, and besides the cultural icon he was and all that, I think sometimes Ray Allen's early career, his early athleticism gets stepped on because everybody remembers the Boston years and the Miami years, but his early years, he was as athletic as it came at the 2 spot. So, I mean, I would have took, Ray Allen at the 3rd spot. That's just me. I loved Ray, even though I hated what they did in the Big East tournament against my boys. But I loved Ray Allen back then. So I took Ray Allen at number 3.
No doubt. Zell, what you got?
Because I snubbed Bubba Chuck. Obviously, my 3rd pick of the draft would have been Allen Iverson. Some other thoughts that came to mind, when you're trying to pull together a list like this, being a geek and a nerd about basketball, I also try to anticipate, based on careers, who would I win with? Mm-hmm. We can look at accolades to a point, right? But at some point, you drafting and you're looking at, who, based on what they did in their careers, who's going to win me more games? Who's going to win me championships? And or at least, win as many games as you can. Mm-hmm. And so some of these factors kind of come into play because as much as I love Bubba Chuck as a talent, we all know there was questions as to the fit in terms of how do you make a 6'2" guard, your franchise player. Right. I mean, because he's not a traditional point guard. So now you got all these things floating in my head about, damn, I can't, I can't win with that. I might can sell some sneakers and I might have a dope, arena might be sold out, and my gate gonna be nice, but can I win? So anyway, those are some other things that popped in my head. And I love Bubba Chuck, but I just know that is how you build a team around them. And I think Derrick alluded to it earlier. With somebody who's a volume shooter playing technically out of position, it's going to be hard to surround a lot of offensive talent around a player like a Bubba Chuck. This is going to be hard because, you're going to be letting them fly. And you're going to be over there standing in the corner, rubbing your hands together, thinking that ball coming your way. Man. And it ain't coming. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, yeah. I definitely, would probably take AI at number 3. Vancouver, they really didn't have much of anything. They was grabbing at straws, seemed like the whole entire time they were in existence. So that probably would have been their little start to their franchise and trying to turn it around. So I go AI number 3.
And quick footnote to that, for those of you listening who aren't familiar, the Vancouver Grizzlies are now the Memphis Grizzlies. They were in Vancouver as an expansion team along with the Toronto Raptors because people in that part of Canada didn't like basketball and they weren't going to check them out.
Are we that old?
It's crazy to think about it like that. I mean,
wow.
That and what's interesting is how the Raptors actually won a title, and we can remember when there were 2 teams in Canada playing basketball.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gotta go with D on this one again. Third pick, I'm taking Ray Allen, coming out of UConn, storied career, and then I mean, like you said, he definitely did his thing in the NBA. To your point, Zell, Ray Allen, you're right. Those first couple of years in Milwaukee, man. I mean, he was like a 24-5 guy a night. Very consistent, and like you said, the people tend to just remember the Boston years, but no, Ray Allen was every bit of athletic as you would want him to be, and performing in dunk contests and all kind of stuff like that. He's known as a great 3-point shooter, but he was somebody who could really fill it up all around the court. So I'm definitely taking Ray Allen at 3. Since this list, since all 3 of our lists have kind of been shaken up, I'm really interested because the names that I thought, well, with the exception of Jermaine O'Neal, are off the board now. So we're going to the 4th pick. The 4th pick was the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm taking at number 4, based on his college career and his pro career, Steve Nash.
Damn it.
At number 4. I got Steve Nash. Steve Nash was drafted 15 in this draft. Out of Santa Clara, I remember seeing him in college. I didn't think he was that good in college. No, I take that back. I thought he was decent in college, but I didn't think he would be the pro that he became. As you all know, controversial 2-time MVP of the league, Steve Nash. I'm taking him at number 4. Zell, who you got it for?
Well, because of my JO pick, I'm kind of I still got a Hall of Fame on my list and a perennial All-Star. So in my list, I'm gonna go, and he ultimately ended up playing for Milwaukee. Ray Allen.
Okay. What about you, D?
I think me and you are too similar because I got Steve Nash too.
Wow, I didn't think you have Nash that high.
Because you don't like him like that.
Right.
But if I look at the list and what he did, even though, like you said, the second MVP was extremely controversial, I got to give credit
Wasn't
where
the
credit.
first MVP controversial too?
Sometimes it just. I don't think he did, but I don't want to whitewash the whole thing out. I'll just say the second one because the second one was he had a lot of comp at the top. Like, anyway, his career accomplishments. Like you said in college, I didn't think much of him in college, but he got into it. He's the quintessence of getting into the right system. Because we always talk about all these great athletes that go to pro and everybody can do this, blah, blah, blah. But if you don't get into the right system, you won't be jack. And that's why people forget about the Dallas Steve Nash.
Yes.
People forget about those years because he wasn't in that right system for him. And they even though it was hard to believe that the 7 seconds or less was going to win. At least that was a perfect system for him to thrive in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. So they give them a chance, and the whole Robert Horry bumping to the table thing, we don't know how the things would have ended up. But Steve Nash earned my respect on the court until he played for the Lakers. But all of mine goes back there. But he earned it. I mean, out of this list, Steve Nash is my number.
Okay.
I thought he was gonna be my shakeup, but when you said his name, I was like, wow, really?
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised.
My 5 be a shakeup.
Okay. So now we move to number 5, the 5th pick. Zell, who you got at number 5?
So y'all know I gotta always be a little different.
We see.
And I may not be different with this one, but the 5th pick for me definitely has to be I'm going with my man Sharif Abdul-Rahim.
Okay.
And as much as he probably did not get the kind of recognition he probably deserved over the course of his career, because he played, on teams that Vancouver for the majority of his career, then to Atlanta, and then after that it was pretty much whatever it was. He probably didn't get his just due. I mean, he was a 20-point per game guy for a good 4 or 5, 6 years, and there he was pretty much 20 points perennial every year. So I got to respect anybody could put up 20 points a game in the NBA 5, 6 years straight. I mean, that's legit productivity. So I got to give him his respect. Right. Even though he played in Vancouver, it is what it is. I get it. But I'm going with Sharif, number 5.
Okay. What about you, D?
All right, my number 5 from what we remember back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
My number 5 is my first foreigner, unless you count Steve Nash, the Canada shit. But I'm taking Peja Stojakovic at number 5.
Woo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's deep right there. That is a point. Yeah. Wow. I did not see that coming.
Like I said, I had some shakes on here.
I see.
Listen, if you take out the fact that in the clutch he might nut up, overall he had some numbers.
He was cold as shit.
He was cold sometimes. I mean, he had moments where if he was in the right place at the right time, you gonna pay for it. It just that Sacramento team, they was full of, yeah. But yeah, my number 5 pick from back then would have been Peja. The Sharif argument, I get it, but at that time and what Peja did overall in his career, I'll go with Peja.
Okay. 5th pick. Let me see. I'm gonna keep it right here in the A-Town. Kid played right up the street at Georgia Tech. Point guard extraordinaire. Stephon Marbury. That's my 5th pick. Marbury was drafted 4th, actually. So I'm taking Stephon Marbury as my 5th pick. Wow. Okay, yeah. Our draft boards are looking really different right now.
Finally.
But that's good. That's good.
Actually, he ended up in Minnesota, so that's...
Yeah, it is. It really is. Okay, so for the 6th pick, who had the 6th pick? Oh, wow. Boston had the 6th pick. Now, originally they took Antoine Walker. So, D, you got the 6th pick. Who's coming off the board?
Sharif Abdul-Rahim, which is why I was like, damn, Zell was close. He was real close on that one. I mean, Sharif wasn't. I 5 and 6 for me was a little battle, here and there. But Sharif would have been a perfect fit for me at that. Like you said, you putting up 20 in the league, and you really had no real position. In my opinion, he didn't have no real position back then. He was putting in some work. So I'd have put Sharif up there at number 6.
Okay, no doubt. What about you, Zell? You got the 6th pick. Who you taking?
So this was another one that I had to kind of go back and try to figure it out. Like, who do they have on Boston? And they didn't have they had a bunch of stuff. This was the Dana Barrows, David Wesley stuff.
Was this the Rick Pitino Celtics? Was that
had to be.
The Rick Fox and that was this little squad.
Oh, wow.
Eric Montrose. That was them. So they basically just had a bag full of loose change. That's what they
a Crown Royal bag in his
right. They had a bunch of dudes.
So if I had to go with somebody to shake that whole situation up, there's no really position that I think, they believed in, because none of them guys end up being career Celtics, maybe with the exception of D. Brown and Rick Fox was probably the guys on that team. But I would go with Steve Nash for a lot of reasons that you probably wouldn't think.
Wow.
I would go with.
Okay.
But if you think really hard about Boston, Steve Nash would have been great. So I'm going to just leave it right there.
You stupid.
And you imagine.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine what Boston would be like? The environment with Steve Nash throwing that ball behind his head and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, and Red Auerbach would be celebrating, lighting a cigar every night. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. 6th pick. It's on me. I gotta go Jermaine O'Neal. Jermaine was drafted 17th, but I think for this one I'm moving him up to 6 to Boston. Had a great career. Like you said, Zell, earlier, people forget that Jermaine O'Neal's first, because he came out of high school, Eau Claire High School in Columbia, South Carolina. He spent his first couple of years in Portland on the bench, where he really could have shined, given the fact that he came out of high school, but he was so nice and so raw. And he had a very good career, man. Just came close to a ring a couple of times with, some of those Pacers teams. That Pacer team that got into the brawl with the Pistons. Who knows how that season would have been had they not gotten into that fight. But, yeah, man, Jermaine O'Neal, I'm taking him at 6. So now we move to the 7th pick. 7th pick was the LA Clippers. They took the late Lorenzen Rice, rest in peace. So you got the 7th pick. Who you taking?
The 7th pick. Okay. I think for this pick, we still got I think for this pick, I'm gonna go ahead and let your boy Stephon Marbury get a little bit of that LA sun.
Okay.
I'm going Steph Marbury playing for the races.
This dude. Oh Lord. D, what you got, man?
Well, oddly enough, we we're friends. You could tell we're friends because my number 7 pick is Jermaine O'Neal. I got him close to where y'all have him at. You know what I'm saying? Like overall, his whole career, like Zeke said, his first 3-4 years, he sat behind them guys in Portland, and we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't know. We kind of knew, but in high school, anybody with a 6'5" in high school could chew gum and not fall. They might be nice in high school,
right?
But you just don't know. And then when he got to Indiana, I think it was. Mm-hmm. You saw it. You saw the footwork. You kind of saw it in some garbage time in Portland, but you really saw it in Indiana. I mean, he had the footwork. He had the touch. He had the aggression. He just never had the strength overall to bang, bang, bang like he could have. But yeah, overall number 7, I'd have took Jermaine O'Neal back then at 7.
Okay. At 7, man, I'm like you, D. I'm bringing in Peja Stojakovic. Peja, one of the best foreign players, one of the best foreign shooters I think that you will ever see. He was, lights out. He could fill it up from just about anywhere. He shot the 3 ball really, really well. As you mentioned, D, he was on, those Kings teams that got cheated and came so close.
Had to say it in my face.
Hey, I ain't gonna say it behind your back. I'm gonna say it to your face. We know they got cheated. Hey, it is what it is. But yeah, man, that King squad was nice, man. But they just, other than them getting cheated, I don't think they had the mental wherewithal. And that's that Kings team with Mike Bibby and Chris Webber. I just don't think they had the mental wherewithal to withstand all that, Shaq and Kobe were bringing. And, looking back on it, Shaq and Kobe had the championship pedigree. And, I mean, like, they just weren't going to be denied. And, the Kings, they just couldn't get over the hump. But like you said, Pager, he'd have those games where he could just score with anybody. And then he had a couple of games where he might just disappear. So you just, that part of it. But I think overall he had a great career. And he was one of those foreign players, I think, that really, really earned the respect of, the players here. And so I'm taking him at number 7. Now we move to the 8th pick. The New Jersey Nets had the 8th pick, and they took Kerry Kittles. If I've got the 8th pick, looking at this list, I'm probably taking Antoine Walker. Antoine Walker out of Kentucky. I thought he had a really solid career. He was a guy that was he could do a little bit of everything, and I think that was his gift and his curse, because if Twan was shooting it well, he was going to shoot it. He was going to put it up. And sometimes he would get the ball in the break, and he'd be out there trying to go between the legs and behind the back and all kind of stuff like that, and that really wasn't his game. But he had nice handles. He could pass, and he could definitely shoot. But he was, as he got further along in his career, he was just pretty much either hot or cold. And he knew it, early in the game. If he was hot, you had to feed him. If he was cold, the problem with Antoine Walker was sometimes he'd be cold and he was determined to keep shooting until he got hot. And that's not necessarily the best for the team. But anyway, long story short, I'm taking Antoine Walker at the 8th pick. Zell, you got the 8th pick. Who's coming off the board for you?
Yep, I agree with you, Kyle, 100%. Antoine Walker is another person that, you got to look at his career kind of within a different lens. He played on struggling teams. Boston, I guess, is what comes to mind that, during those years, Boston really were not, in championship contention. So a lot of times, their productivity gets kind of overlooked. But for the majority of his career, he was another similar to Sharif in the fact that he put up very good numbers. I mean, shooting percentage may not have been the best, but he was kind of like a 20, borderline 10 guy for, a long time, 6, 7, 8 years we talking. Really? Just never really played on a team that had much chance to win it all until he got to Miami. And at that time, I pulled up his stats. He was only averaging like 11, 12 points when he played for Miami. But and even that was still good, considering that he was a instrumental piece to that run. So yeah, I definitely putting Antoine Walker in another situation, better coach, whatever. You never know, how these players can ultimately turn out. He definitely was an offensive weapon. You alluded to his ball handling. He was a stretch 4, almost a borderline 3. Couldn't really defend threes, but he can definitely push the ball, handle it, shoot the 3, get to the hole. I mean, he had his game would be perfect for today's game because, everything is positionless now. Mm-hmm. He would be an ideal person for the current state of the NBA. So, yeah, definitely for sure, Antoine Walker comes off for me.
No doubt. D, who you got?
At my 8th spot, I got Marbury.
Okay.
I finally got Marbury come off the board at 8. I mean, take away the gluey stuff and all that craziness, I have to justify how I slipped some of my guys around.
How dare you? It wasn't glue, it was Vaseline.
See? There you go. You're right, Vaseline. I apologize. The Vaseline eating crap. The 1 year at G-Tech, he was just wow. It was really something to watch, man. And then, his body, he had the strength. And if only him and KG could have found a way, them Eagles was a beast. But if they could have found a way, man, I'm not saying they would have won a chip in many, but they would have made more noise than they did. I mean, that was a KG and Starberry at 21 and 20 years old.
Bruh.
You know what I mean? You gotta let that sink in for a minute. Or matter of fact, no, not even that old, like 20 and 19.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really, like that. If they could have found a way to make that work, it'd have been a different story. But Starberry for me was just he had the handles, he had the shot when he on. He's kind of like a Walker in a way that when it was on, but when it wasn't, he was still trying to find it. Never really developed into a pure NBA point guard, if you will, but he was still nice with the handles. And once again, all about the system. If he'd have been in the right system, I believe, if he'd have been in the right system, he would have did more work in the NBA, just my opinion.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, we always say we never know what would have happened had they, stayed together. And it was just, it's sad to when you look back at it, because they could have been something special. So now we get to what are we on, pick 9? Wow. 9th pick. D, who you got coming in at number 9?
Antoine Walker.
Okay.
Like I said, we're just friends. We're brothers, man. Because our list, even though the somebody in here threw it way off early, but overall, our list is kind of similar. Antoine Walker would have came out at that number 9 for me. I mean, once again, in college, positionless. In the pros, positionless. And he had some silly moments, if you will, but if he could have just focused. And in a lot of our picks, I know I'm not the only one, but a lot of our picks are going to be a if he could have, if they could have. Because if you think back then, Antoine Walker was kind of silly and goofy, but man, if he could have just focused that, if they could have focused that, man, who knows what he could have been, but he was still nice. And if he would have ever got in shape.
Never got in shape.
Never got in shape like that. Had he ever gotten in shape, we don't know. But for what he was and what he did, that would have been my pick at number 9, Antoine Walker.
No doubt. Zell, who you got coming in at number 9?
Number 9, the gentle giant, very slept on. Even at the time when he got drafted, I felt like he was going to be a significant contributor in the NBA, but I'm going with Marcus Camby.
I was wondering if anybody was going to have him in the top 10.
I'm going with Marcus Camby, and not for reasons, I think Marcus Camby ultimately was a solid pro, man. I mean, he was a pro's pro. Double guy. I think a couple of years he came close to averaging 4 blocks a game, I believe. I'm not 3.7, 3.8. I'm seeing on this list, but close to 4 blocks a game, and he averaged double-digit rebounds for at least about 8-9 years, 11-plus rebounds.
Wow.
Never averaged 20 points a game, always stayed kind of – his first year probably was his best offensive year, and then he kind of settled in being a rebounder, 10, 11-point-per-game guy, solid pro. I mean, I think he would be a good fit on anybody's backline defense, rim protector. He was that guy. And I think he was a solid pick. I don't think his offensive game evolved because he was one of those guys that back to the basket game was kind of limited, and he had a little bit of a face-up jump shot, but I don't think he ever really perfected, enough of a bag, enough of a repertoire of stuff. His bag was limited. So, and that probably what hurt him. I mean, if he would have probably added a little more to his game, we probably could have seen his point production go up. But, you get a max deal, you contribute, you play on good teams, you make good money. Some cats is good. They're good with that. So, but I respect it because he played a long time in the league and he was a solid contributor.
No doubt. I agree, and I echo all of those sentiments, man. I got Marcus Camby coming in at 9 too. I think I didn't realize this until I did a little bit of research before we did the podcast. He played 19 years in the league.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. I mean, keep in mind, he was the 2nd overall pick behind Iverson. So he, like you said, Zell, he had decent numbers. He had a very solid career. I think because of some of the other names and some of the other superstars in this draft, he kind of gets forgotten. And like you said, Zell, he's really gentle. He wasn't he was a 6'10", 6'11" shot blocker, rim protector type of guy, but he wasn't menacing or anything like that. He was when he was in college, actually in the NBA too as well. He was sort of wiry. Not really, he was more long than he was big,
Right.
but he was a ball player, man, and I think history will show Marcus Camby had the epitome of a very good NBA career. He didn't win any rings or anything like that, so people, who get caught up on that ring stuff, you'll forget about him. But no, he had a very, very solid career. Now we move to the 10th pick. D, who you got at number 10?
Marcus Camby. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my list like, can I move somebody around?
Nope.
Marcus Camby is my number 10. Yeah, he's number 10 for everything y'all just said. Marcus Camby is number 10. Don't need to be even boring the listeners for any more of what y'all just said. Same exact reasons.
No doubt. So who you got at 10?
Number 10, I struggled with this one a little bit because I kind of had a feel to throw somebody else in there, but I'm gonna go with Pager. But
okay.
But though, it's a but.
I didn't really want to go with Pager, but I went with Pager. Pager played on a hell of a team, and the team that he played on, he wasn't asked to do a lot. I mean, he did a lot, but he wasn't really required, to. I mean, if he could hit jump shots, that's was his thing. He wasn't like, a franchise piece. Will he be a Hall of Famer and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. I think the jury's still out on that.
I say no.
Yeah,
I don't think so either.
So that's why I struggled. I mean, he played on a good team and he was a significant contributor on a good team. So, should he make my, is he a lottery pick? I don't know. But I'm gonna go with Pager. I'll go with Pager.
Okay. My 10th pick. I was waiting on somebody to throw a curveball. Neither one of you threw a curveball, so I'm about to throw the curveball. My 10th pick. I didn't see him in college. I saw him once he got to the pros. He was somebody who did a lot of the dirty work. He played for the Bullets. That was the first team he played for. The Bullets, the Magic, the Pistons, the Bulls, the Cavs, and back again with the Pistons. He was the anchor of a championship team. I'm talking about the kid straight out of Virginia Union, Ben Wallace, number 10 pick.
That's a good pick.
Wow.
Damn right it is.
Wow.
That's a good pick. I mean, I had him on my list, but not that high.
I had to put him at 10.
I must have misread the list because I didn't even see that.
Well, here's the key, D. He was undrafted. He was undrafted.
You sneaky podcast hosted mother.
Undrafted out of Virginia Union, Ben Wallace. So that's who I got at 10. So then we go to the 11th pick. Zell, who you taking at number 11?
Number 11, I wouldn't consider this a curveball, but solid pro. Once again, I'm going to go with Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
That is a curve.
Zydrunas Ilgauskas. I will encourage everyone to pull up his stats. You might be pleasantly surprised.
This is true. This is so true.
You might be pleasantly surprised. This cat, you know what I'm saying, he averaged double figures like his whole career almost. Like he just didn't look good doing it. You know what I'm saying?
He didn't. It wasn't flashy at all.
No, it looked horrible. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, D, who you got coming in at number 11?
This is where my struggle started at, right? My first 10 was cool, but struggle 11 through 14 was my. I just started kind of throwing names out there, if you will. My 11th pick was Kerry Kittles.
Okay. Kerry Kittles out of Villanova.
Only because I loved his game at Villanova. I kind of gave him a pass for his not fulfilling his destiny in the pros. I loved him at Villanova. I That New Jersey team he played on, I can't say the word no more because I'm kind of distracted from my vocabulary. But he was playing with a bunch of niggas, and I don't know if he really fit that bill when they was playing the Lakers in the finals. I don't know if that was his niche, but and then injuries, of course, kind of hurt him, whatever. But in Villanova, I just thought this dude right here, man, this is 6'6", 6'7", wiry. He was an upgrade to what's the little bum that played at Florida that everybody loves so much? What's his name? Now I'm drawing a blank.
Played at Florida, Brewer? No, not Brewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was an upgraded Brewer, in my opinion.
Okay.
Same athletic skills, same kind of wiry frame, same kind of game, so to speak. But he was a better shooter, whereas Brewer was a better defender. But Kerry Kittles, he had an all right career. I mean, it wasn't nothing to write home about. But we're at number 11, so who cares?
I was going to ask you because I couldn't remember if he was on that team that played against that Jersey team that played against the Lakers in the championship or not.
Kobe ate him.
Oh yeah, Kobe.
It was personal.
Of course. You know it was, because he was drafted there in the same draft class, and he goes ahead of Kobe, and I mean Kobe being Kobe, of course you're gonna hold that against him. He went.
Well, there was also a lot of turmoil between them because of how the agent kind of did all that spewing about the rumors they did during them. Remember that?
Yeah.
There was some stuff with Kerry Kittle's agent that happened, along with Kobe's agent. That it was a lot of stuff that happened in that draft behind the scenes between those two that made it personal.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Let's see, Zell, did we get your pick?
I got it. Yeah, I did Jonas at number 11.
Okay. My 11th pick, I'm going with the aforementioned Sharif Abdul-Rahim. Like you said, great career, but he falls from 3 to 11 for me. I remember seeing Sharif play here when he played with the Hawks, and Sharif was nice, man. I mean, good dude on the court, off the court, did a lot of stuff in the community and everything. Of course, he's from Metro Atlanta. So I like Sharif, man. I like him a lot. I think he had a solid career. Like you said earlier, playing in Vancouver, I mean, you just got lost in the sauce, man. I mean, nobody was paying attention to Vancouver. And I think injuries kind of derailed the tail end of his career. But I thought he had a solid career, so I got him coming in at number 11. Let's see. So we go to the 12th pick, D. Lovehall. Who's coming off the board for you at 12?
Gosh. Zildrunas Ilgauskas. I'm so embarrassed. Like every time y'all say something, I'm like, God. Yeah, man. Zildrunas. I had to look his numbers up too. Like, you know what? As ugly as it was, Z had some numbers. Z had numbers. No matter what you say, Z had numbers. So yeah, my without really giving too much detail, number 12 is Zildrunas Ilgauskas.
No doubt. Zell, who you got at 12?
All right, so this is when it starts getting a little bit hairy for me. So my research kind of ran amok at this point. At number 12, kind of more of a pick'em kind of way. I'm going to go with this role player at number 12, and I'm going to go with Malik Rose.
Wow. Well, that's a pull. Malik Rose was drafted 44th by the Charlotte Hornets. Wow, but Malik Rose had a good career, though.
Yeah. That's the only reason I did it, because he was a career journeyman. He was a piece. He did everything that nobody else wanted to do. And he took pride in it, and he was rewarded by getting picked up. He was what you call a hard-nosed vet.
He played for your Knicks, right?
Yeah, he played for my Knicks. Yeah, he played for the Knicks.
Okay.
I don't even say mine no more. He played for the Knicks. Shout out to World Wide West, though. We about to be giving out these bags.
They do it every year. Hey, we back this year, baby. We back. Knicks.
The mellow ball, baby. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
The mellow ball. I heard you trying to sneak it in. I heard it.
Oh, Lord.
Never lost.
No, never lost. Oh man, can you imagine? Oh man, their daddy in New York. Wow. Problems.
Y'all can have it.
Problems. The Knicks don't even have a coach either. Problems. Wow. Okay, where we at? I done lost track. We at 12.
I'm a 12, man.
Okay, you gave it your 12D.
Yes, sir. Zell Jonas.
This ain't personal.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Because I don't particularly care for him personally because of some of his antics off the court. But 12, man, I got to go with Derrick Fisher, man. The Dirty Mac.
Hey, they don't call him DM for nothing. Yeah. Dirty Mizak.
Yeah, man. The Dirty Mac's coming in at 12 for me. Derrick Fisher, great career. He was originally drafted 24th by the Lakers out of Little Rock. No, but I think, and D probably can tell you, there probably were a lot of people that didn't think Derrick Fisher would even make the Lakers squad. And really for him to have the career that he had and to be alongside Kobe in draft, and to be with the Lakers and be such, a clutch player and, doing all the things that he did throughout his career for the Lakers. It goes without saying. He was phenomenal on the court. So, yeah, I at the 12th pick, like I said, I can't speak for him off the court, but but on the court, Derrick Fisher coming in for me at number 12. 13th pick. So we're almost done with the lottery because the lottery is technically 14 picks. D. Love Hall, who you got coming off the board at 13?
Dirty Mac. This is some shit. Yo, D. Fisher's my 13th pick, yo.
Wow.
What is going on here?
You say that very hesitantly.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. The Lakers fan says this hesitantly.
Listen, man. He don't. Hey, man. He's dirty, man. He did some dirty stuff off the court, but he was the glue. He was the glue for people who don't understand. He may not have been like a quintessential starter, so to speak. Like when he left to go to Utah, they found out his weaknesses, or either OKC, they found out that he was really just a spot-up shooter. But when it came to corralling Kobe's mentality, when it came to making Kobe a better teammate, D. Fish was probably the only person that really got through to Kobe 100%. Rick Fox might have got through a little bit. Shaq in his own way might have got through a little bit. Even Ron Harper might have got through a little bit. But the one person that Kobe really listened to and toned his voice down and his antics down towards his teammates was Fish. Mm-hmm. So I give him more credit for that than the actual game, because he was not a point guard. He could not handle the ball. He could not make layups. Let's just be real. Anybody who say he couldn't make layups. He missed every layup he tried to take. Go back and look at the tape. He never made a layup. He made a dunk or two, but he never made a layup. Go look at the tape. Tape don't lie. But as far as being the glue that kept Kobe, as far as and making sure Kobe don't smack Samaki Walker again, it was D. Fish. So I put D. Fish at 13 on my list.
Okay. All right, Zell, who you got at 13, man?
I mean, I have to apologize. I think I made a slight error when I deviated to Malik Rose, but I'm gonna keep Malik Rose at 12, and I'm going. I gotta show Kerry Kittles a little bit of respect. He was a top pick, and he did do well. He just didn't play as long as probably his other cohorts. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna go with Kerry Kittles. I mean, for all the things, I think Derrick positioned him a little earlier, but he was a solid piece, knockdown, jump shot. He can move his feet pretty good. I mean, he was a solid pro. He only played like 6-7 years, I believe.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Them injuries kicked in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but I'll go with Kerry Kittles. I give him his respect.
No doubt, no doubt. I got 13. I got Iljunas Ilgauskas. Much like you said, Zell, he had a crazy career. And I think he was one of those guys that when we look back, we'll say, like you said, if you put the tape on, the tape and the numbers that he put up really don't kind of say the same things, because if you watch him, you're like, okay, wow, he got 20 tonight? Because like he will have like the most nondescript 20 points you'd ever want to see. But he was efficient, and he was pretty much efficient night in, night out. So I got Ilgauskas at 13. 14th and final lottery pick, I'm taking Kerry Kittles. Much like you guys said, his injuries, I think, kind of have me having him this low, because Kittles was originally drafted 8th overall in the 96 draft. But yeah, for all of the reasons that you guys mentioned, I'm taking Kerry Kittles at 14. D, what about you? Who you have coming off the board at 14?
Okay, so let me just say this. I struggled a little bit. Y'all know I had 12 on my list, and I struggled. I put Lorenzen right at 14 because I forgot I even didn't have him on my list at all, and I was going through trying to figure out where could I put him at. But Lorenzen right at 14, that don't bother me or anything. Mm-hmm. But I just want to say my first name I wrote down and I had to scratch it out was Tony Delk. Because I was like, damn, he was kind of dope at Kentucky, but he never really had a position because he wasn't a point, and he wasn't as nice as AI. He was as nice as AI as far as the quickness with the shot, so that's why we couldn't give him that. So I scratched him off and put Lorenzen right, because Lorenzen was a nice, he put in some work. Once again, injuries kind of plagued him a little bit, and then the tragedy that happened, all that. But
right,
yeah, Lorenzen right at 14. That don't really make my skin crawl. So I left Lorenzen at 14.
Okay,
but shout out to Tony Delk, honorable mention.
No doubt. You're right. Tony Delk really was. He was really dope at Kentucky, but at what was he, 6 feet, maybe 6'1"? He didn't have the explosiveness that AI had. Right. So he was really kind of a tweener. He was a little too slow to play point guard and too short to play two. So yeah,
he was like Anderson Hunt without a better shot. I mean, he was Anderson Hunt. Am I wrong?
You're right. You are so right. So who you got at 14?
Thanks to you, Kyle, and my ability to Google numbers while y'all talking.
Cheater.
I'm gonna go with Benjamin Wallace as well.
Okay.
Just to round out the list, I pulled up his stats. He never averaged double figures, but he did average double figure rebounds for like 7 years straight. And then he just fell off like a ton of bricks out of Detroit, though. Yeesh. But yeah, I'm going with Big Ben Wallace and Lorenzen Wright and Dirty Mac. All them guys get honorable mentions.
Dirty
Mac.
Oh man! So before we get out of here, man, we pretty much run it down. But when you look back at this draft, if there's one player that you can say like you look at where he was drafted and you're like, why? Like why was he drafted that high? Who is anybody in particular that comes to mind? Because like I'm looking at draft, and the first person that I see on the draft that I was like, why was he drafted as high was Todd Fuller. I remember Todd Fuller at NC State. I don't remember Todd Fuller being that good at NC State. So for him to be drafted 11th by the Golden State Warriors, and for those of you listening, this was the Golden State Warriors, not the Warriors that you guys know, that shooting threes and shaking and shimmying and all kind of stuff like that, winning championships. These were the Warriors. Todd Fuller, just even that particular Warriors team didn't fit what they were doing. And again, I remember him at NC State. He wasn't that good. So for him to come off the board at 11 seemed like a stretch to me. D, is anybody that when you look at the draft list that you just why?
So number 10 didn't stick out. Eric Dampier didn't stick out to you first? I don't recall Eric Dampier being much better than Todd Fuller.
I remember Eric Dampier in the SEC. He was, I'm not going to say dominant. He was very solid. He was, because at that time, there weren't really a lot of big men with their back to the basket. He was more of a power forward / center. And maybe it was because there weren't there wasn't really that much competition as far as people his size and skill set in the SEC. So he put up pretty good numbers. So I remember him in the SEC. I thought he had a decent NBA career. I know he traveled around a lot. Now, he might have been on that. He might have been on that first Miami Heat championship team on the bench, if I'm not mistaken. But I thought for where he got drafted, I'm not necessarily mad at it. But yeah, I would take him over Todd Fuller.
well, apparently so would Indiana, because they took him number 10 instead of 11. But right. I'm just saying, those two, Todd Fuller, you're correct, but Eric Dampier, for me, I don't really recall him being a top 10. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he didn't have a solid career, but as far as being a top 10, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. I agree. I think y'all hit the two biggest violators. And everybody else, it's kind of the draft is kind of like this probably in every draft, where you kind of have a percentage of these guys that So yeah, I think those are obvious. And this may have been. I'm just thinking about in the '90s without having anything in front of me. It's just that we are probably in the transition in that time where having a 7-footer was still in vogue. Still a rebounder, a shot, a rim protector. Those things were still valuable assets. Rebounder, even if you couldn't play, those things still were considered valuable. Not so much today. So if you don't have no skill and you can't shoot a face-up jump shot, you might not get drafted. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's that serious now as far as skill set. So yeah, those are the two obvious. Samaki Walker, but he had a couple of years where he played well, and then I don't know if it was the 40s or the
Guess in the 40s.
Oh my God.
But yeah, but that's about it. But those are the obvious ones. Shout out to John Wallace. You know what I mean? People like that.
You see him. Yeah, still trying to figure out why John Wallace and Walter McCarty, who basically played the same position in college, both were drafted by your Knicks at 18 and 19. Yeah, well,
it's funny that you say that, because on my original list, John Wallace is number 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Remember Donnie Jones at Mississippi State?
I don't.
I remember him. He was decent. He was like a 6'6", 6'7" swing forward. I think I remember him being drafted by the Knicks, but I think he ended up in Boston. He was okay. He was decent.
We didn't get a little of Roy Rogers? No love for Roy?
I barely remember Roy Rogers, and I only remember Roy Rogers because of his name. That's it.
I know.
And I think this was kind of this might have been around the Patino. No, this wasn't the Patino Knicks. This was the Patino was in Boston around this time, was he not?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man. Yeah, but this was fun. This was a fun little exercise.
Yeah, no.
And only giving me 2 hours of prep time is what.
Yeah, I know, right? And look, he give us, and then he hit us with the Ben Wallace. You know what I'm saying?
Clearly, he's had 2 days of study time.
Let me tell you what I do. I come up with topics throughout the time, and I write them down, and I just happen to be scrolling, and it was something that I emailed myself a couple of months ago. I was scrolling through my phone. I was like, okay, I need a topic for this week's podcast. And so I started going through my little drafts. I was like, oh, I forgot about this one. Let me hit the fellas up. So when I hit y'all up, I was like, okay, bet. So, no, it wasn't something I had planned. But, yeah, as always, y'all came through in the clutch. That's going to do it for us. Before we get out of here, you guys can tell folks where they can find you. Zell, you want to tell the people where they can find you at?
On Twitter, Easy Does It VA. Instagram, Easy Does It VA. No, you find me there. I'm not very active, but you can find me there. Don't be looking at my friends list on Instagram. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to look right now. I'm going to the game right now.
D, tell people where they can find you at.
D Love Hall, Instagram, Twitter, and I'm gonna make this announcement on the 12 Kyle podcast. Yeah, cause I ain't sending nobody yet. This is the first time. Be on the lookout for Zone Out 3. It's in the works. I already wrote my part. We just gotta record it. So there it is.
That's a single or as an album? What we talking about?
The single is gonna be on Rose Joint, but I'm working on some new material for mine as well. I'm getting back into it, so it's time. I got some things I got to get off. It's time.
You rapping?
No, I'm not rapping. I'm not a rapper. I'm not against rappers. I am against. Can we not do this in public?
He really said, like, I got an album coming.
Listen, man. Y'all know the vibe.
Are you a rapper?
Things happening
I mean, Zell really asked when you were a rapper.
Because you start that. That's what you be doing. You be starting that rapper stuff. Y'all be like bars. Drop a freestyle. Nobody does freestyles, man. Shut up.
Who him? He hot. Like Elway all day.
but no, real talk, man. I'm back at it, man. I got the pen. The pen is hot again. I'm back. So
hey,
yeah,
man, that's what's up, man. Congratulations. We'll be looking out for Zone Out 3. For those of you listening, check out Zone Out 1 and 2. I didn't know that there was a 2. I guess I need to find it.
I'm not on 2, so don't worry about 2. Okay. Just look at it and worry about 3.
Zone Out's playing background right now.
Oh wow.
so yeah, you guys know where to find. I don't have anything to promote. I mean, I just got a little podcast. That's about it. Something like, nonetheless. So that's gonna do it for us. I'm your boy Kyle. So for D Love Hall and my man Easy Desert VA, we'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Here.